MVJ.
Out there, and welcome to the Michael versus Jason Horrorcast, where we love to bicker, argue, and debate all things horror. Today is not like a normal episode. We have a special episode, and it's a two-man show today. So, Kirk, what's going on?
Yeah, today we're changing up a little bit. So last week, Jason won, the devil's wheel. But Jason was not able to be with us today, so we didn't want to leave him out from his successful movie.
His own movie, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So we're throwing a bit of a curveball. We are also sports fans. We watch a lot of ESPN. So we have the idea of Pardon the Horror. Basically a Pardon the Interruption type ESPN show where we have 8 topics. We're going to put a timer on the clock and discuss, debate, and we know the topics already. We have no idea what the subject is or what the other person thinks. So this will be fly off the cuff.
Yeah, so for fans of Pardon the Interruption, this will be very familiar to you. If not, hang on for the ride. Bear with us. We don't know how this is going to go either, so I think
episode 1.
But we'll see. We'll see if there's an episode 2, dependent on how episode 1 goes. But you ready?
Absolutely. This one we're just diving in. No pleasantries. So we wanted to make this episode just a little different.
That's right. Fuck you, Kirk. All right. No pleasantries.
No pleasantries.
So, topic number 1. We got 5 minutes on the clock. Last week, Kirk, we discussed Evil Dead Rise as we went to the theater to see it, but it's been over a week now, and topic 1 is, where do you stand after a week? Because you, my friend, were, I think, a 6, and you had 2013 above this. So what have your thoughts gotten stronger? Where you at?
So where I sit today, I'm identical to and I'm more ingrained in my score today than I was last week. I think I was a little hesitant last week. I was still on that high of the movie, but today I feel very, very confident of it. I've watched a lot of reviews, I've digested a lot, and I've gone back and forth. How do you feel?
So I'm with you, but obviously I came in at a much higher score. I came in at 8, and the more I think about this movie, and the more I guess reminisce, and I'm just like you. I'm reading articles and reviews and some of the Easter eggs that were out there that we didn't touch on last week. The good news is we found most of the Easter eggs.
We found a lot.
Yeah, we did. I'm more steadfast in my 8. I am more steadfast that this is the best Evil Dead of any of the series. And by the way, great series. I think this is the topper.
So I'm going to stick by my score, and I think my score will maintain.
I feel like there's a but coming.
There is a but coming.
Okay.
The list 1 through 5, I think this movie will slowly squeeze its way down.
Really?
List. Yes.
How is that even possible?
So there are several things. One, it feels kind of more like a parody of Evil Dead, a very, very good one, but it just didn't feel that same Evil Dead to me. 2, the CGI just keeps coming back. And 3, what's your standouts? So what are your standout scenes that are going to stick with you? There's nothing that I can really, like 2013, I could probably name 4 or 5. I could probably name 4 or 5 in the first 2 minutes, right? But this one, I didn't have as much. And I'm all right. So there's a lot of people online right now shitting on this movie, and there's a lot of people online praising this movie. I'm not shitting on this movie at all. I'm just lower than these two. So let's get that straight.
I don't know how anybody could shit on this movie.
There are a lot of people shitting on it.
I have not read them. Everybody I've talked to that's seen it or anything that I've read likes it. But here's the deal. It doesn't matter.
Right.
I mean, I could give everybody in the world $1 million and there would be at least 1 million people that would shit on me and say, well, you could have afforded to give us all $2 million.
Right.
And, nobody's ever happy. So online trolls mean nothing to me.
Right. No, I agree. But there are people that are giving this like 1 out of 10. And it's not a 1 out of 10.
Right. But it's fake. Right. It's just trying to incite anger.
Now, what this movie does, and you brought it up last week, and you're talking about best ever franchises. I don't think it's there yet, but I'm not upset with you having that conversation. And this movie helps that conversation, right? So
it pushes it.
It drives it furthers. Right? I don't think it's there yet, but it's not crazy that it's.
Here's the deal: it's not my favorite horror series. Halloween will always be up there for me, and even some of the Nightmares and the Friday 13th. That's a discussion. Even though there's way worse movies, what I say about Evil Dead, and the reason I made the statement last week is
very
name
good
a
movies.
Bad Evil Dead movie.
There isn't one.
When we went last week and we were like Army of Darkness or Evil Dead 2, maybe.
I love those movies still.
Right. They're fantastic. I'll watch them anytime they're on. Now, name Halloween 5 or 6 or Resurrection. I mean, I might stop on it real quick to see as, Myers killing somebody, but I'm probably not stopping on that movie to watch it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There's a lot of good things in Evil Dead Rise. I liked it a lot. I don't think it's going to maintain like those other ones. And one thing you got to say about the Evil Dead franchise is they were able to tonal shift the entirety of this series and almost help itself, right? So this movie is going to make more money than the other 4 movies combined.
It's up to 50 now. We should say it's up to 50. And how much?
I think it's more than that. I think it's like at 60 or 70.
Well, maybe I'm just looking at U.S.
Yes.
But the last I saw was over 50.
So total combined of all the other 4 movies is $155 million. The highest grossing previous was 2013 at $99 million. Now, there's a 10-year difference between 13 and now. So all the money stuff. So, but still, it's going to be the most profitable Evil Dead.
And we will see, because there are more sequels coming off of this. And will they hurt? Will they help the franchise? I will say this was so overhyped in my book that this really should have went the way yours went. And the fact that it didn't, it stuck with me even more of how great of a movie this is.
Yeah. I liked it.
All right. Well, that is 5 minutes.
On the dot. So we're going to go straight into number 2 here. So very important topic I think every horror podcast needs to talk about, our Mount Rushmore of horror. Who's on it? I think 90% of people can go 4, but we'll find out if these two can. So, Mike, who's your number 1?
Okay,
it doesn't have to be number 1. Who's your first person? It doesn't have to be your number 1.
I'm just going to say the easiest one because you're going to agree with me. It's Michael Myers is the greatest horror icon of all time. I don't think
check who's number 2. And I'm not saying rank these. I'm just saying the second
No. Just who's on. And for some reason, every time someone says Mount Rushmore, I always forget there's only 4 presidents on the Mount Rushmore. So for me, number 2, I mean, these are easy for me. It's Jason Voorhees. Yep. It's the next man up.
It's Jason. Yeah, for sure. These first 3 I think are going to be easy. I don't even have to ask you who number 3 is. We are both going to say Freddy Krueger. Like
it's obvious.
Now that we wasted that minute and a half in these 5 minutes.
Only 1 minute, believe it or not.
Only 1 minute. Like, who is your number 4?
So this is another easy one for me, and I do know there's a lot of icons out there, and I know you and I are not going to agree on this one because I believe I know who your 4th is. But for me, it's Leatherface, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's more about the series because if you think of Leatherface, Kirk, you weren't on the episodes that we've done some of the Texas Chainsaw Massacres, but in the entire series, Leatherface kills less than 50% of the people that die.
Is it the family that kills them?
Because it's the family. Yeah. It's the family that kills them. But he's the face of the family. And for me, I grew up young.
He's not even the face of the family, though. Well, he's just like, he's the biggest.
How about this? He wears the face for the family.
Yeah, he wears.
That's actually that should be the next tagline. But when you think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you don't think of Grandpa in the wheelchair first. You don't think of the brother or the crazy, other family members. You think of Leatherface.
And it was based off Ed Gein, right? That's a singular person. Leatherface was based off of him. He is the driving force. You go to see Leatherface, you're not going to see What's
right,
the
but
family's name? I don't even know.
Oh crap!
We'll just call them the
I want to say the
Joneses.
Sawyers. I want to say the
Sawyers,
Sawyers for
yeah.
some reason.
Yeah,
But
sounds right.
but the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from, I believe, 1978,
Four.
74. I'm sorry. Yes, that's right. Like, for how iconic of a movie it is, I saw it way too young. It has shaped who I am. If I go to a haunted house, I'm still the guy that runs away from chainsaws, even though I know, because I'm scared to death of it. So that's where I am. But Kirk, I know you're not going to say Leatherface. Who is yours?
Yeah, if Mount Rushmore was a little bit bigger, I'd be there with you. But it's only 4 people, so Pinhead is my guy. So Hellraiser.
I knew it. I knew it.
For whatever reason, those movies always get me. I always rewatch them. Level of success between those two movies are pretty even, if that's a measuring stick. But I've always been a Pinhead guy. I've always been that.
How many Hellraisers are there?
5 or 6, I think. I don't know.
I say there's a lot. I mean,
they
there's
got
a lot
pretty
of
shitty towards the end. The last one's like found footage. Like it got
them. Oh
really.
shit! I gotta watch that one.
They got,
You told me about this.
Yeah, they got pretty bad towards the end. So, but here's the other not in this group debate on this one. Would it be Ghostface? Ghostface is made more money than the other 3 in total.
Yeah, but I don't look at my Mount Rushmore on profitability.
Yeah,
I
no,
look
I
at
don't
it
either.
on horror icons. Like I think Ghostface definitely has a legit argument, and I think it's tougher because Ghostface, even though Ghostface is 20 plus years old now,
Yeah,
he
that's
still
that's
feels
crazy.
like he still feels
1996.
like new. He still feels new. Like I wouldn't put Art the Clown on there, but
He
talk to
could.
me in 10
He
years. Talk to me
could.
in 10 years,
Yeah.
he could definitely be on there. But I still think Chucky would be, somebody that would be on this wheel maybe before we get into a Ghostface. But realistically, Ghostface has been. I don't know if I want to say popular for longer, but he's had more, like his recency bias is way.
I've seen a lot of people put the vote up for Ghostface. Here is my deflection of Ghostface. Ghostface is not a singular person. Ghostface isn't a singular ID.
It's
just
somebody different in every movie.
It's whomever is pissed off at our main characters.
But I do agree it's a different one every episode. But you could also use that same logic when it gets to Jason Voorhees, then, where legitimately
A quarter of his
5
his
movies,
Yeah.
it's different. Yeah, and even Jason Goes to Hell, it's a different
Yep.
person killing. So you could almost use that same.
But he at
logic.
least has 9 of his 12 movies that is Jason Voorhees. Oh, there's an alarm. So that means we're on to the next one. You've got this one.
We are. Yes. So, all right. This is a very good question that I believe you asked, and it's now on here. But we're seeing a lot of sequels. We're seeing a lot of remakes. So, Kirk, what are some of the top ones that you believe should get a sequel or a reimagining, if you will, of something older?
So I always struggle with this because I like the ingenuity, the creativity, but then I'm also the same person that's like, pump me out of Halloween every year and I'm happy as can be, right? So
Right.
It was tough for me to dig into this. The one that I'm going to go with, and we've talked about this actually, would be Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Like, let's break this thing off and do it a true sequel or reimagining. Like, because there's so much bad blood from that original showing that people think Michael Myers should be in it. So I have always stand firm to that. And I don't like remakes, but this movie could use one. What do you think?
Okay. First off, I wrote down 12 movies. And that 12, yes. And
You like
that
sequels.
That wasn't one of them.
Well, because
but I will tell
technically
you,
there is sequels to that movie, but they're not to that movie.
No, so I could not agree with you more, and everybody knows I'm not a huge fan of Halloween 3, although it has grown on me in the last couple years immensely.
I love Season of the Witch.
And we're going to be going to a HorrorCon where they're having a Season of the Witch reunion here in, 6 weeks. But what I'd like to see is
Wow,
a
6
Halloween
weeks.
3.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, it's so fast. A Halloween 3 reimagining,
Yeah.
I would love to see. Now, from there, I would like, if that did well, I would like to see then a sequel to that, like, and expand out that into a trilogy.
Go into the
And-
initial anthology, but continue.
Right, and you could almost then maybe make it more into the Halloween universe by, episodes 2 and 3 and where that could go.
I have only
So-
one requirement if you did that movie, and then I'm going to let you get off to your 12 list, is Tom Adkins has to be Connell Cochran.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we're both in agreement with that. I want to hear these 12 though.
Yeah, I don't disagree. So let me give you just a couple of mine that I want to throw out there right now. So I mean, I put like we need sequels to Friday 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff like that. But
I'll go see them. I'll be
there are a couple
night.
different sequel versus remake. I believe they need to remake They Live with Roddy Piper from back in the day.
God, that's such a fun movie.
It's a great movie. I think it needs remade. And one that we just recently reviewed, The Stuff. We talked about it during it. I would love to see a 2020 remake. And then
So relevant today.
and then I also, these are ones that I would like to see sequels to here. Brightburn from a couple years ago. Fucking fantastic. One of the greatest new horror movies. Like, that was set up for a sequel.
Brightburn is Superman if he was like,
it's
had
fantastic.
a bad attitude, you know?
You're Next. I would love to see more into that world. I also put in there Laid to Rest. There's two of them. I love Chrome Skull and that killer. The Hitcher. I know we got a remake like 10, 12 years ago, but I believe that that's something that should be out there. I mean, I wrote Creep Show and Tales from the Crypt. I would like to see more.
Fun.
You know, like I literally have so many thoughts. It Follows is one that I love the dynamic of that, and I would like to just see them do something with that.
So I dropped the ball in this category. I did not put It Follows. Like, that should have been my number one, tied for one. Like, I am with you. That world I want to see again.
I want to see more Hostels.
Really? Really? That kind of wore out its welcome for me.
Hostel 3 sucked. You can't end on that. Give me something new. Or let's reimagine the first one. It's been 15,
Just go watch
17
Martyrs,
years.
call it a day.
Well, yeah, that's not the same. That is not the same. That is a completely different.
It's the same outcome.
I also thought about the Silent Night series.
Yeah. What about Krampus?
Krampus, but I like to see a more evil style.
But it
Krampus
lends itself. That first one lends itself to sequels because you can have many spoiler alert. You can have many families in their own snow globes.
Yes.
And you could see it zooming into another one and zooming out to another one and stuff like that.
What about this one? Freddy versus Jason. I want to see a sequel, not a rematch. I want to see a rematch. I also, we know in the past it was supposed to be Pinhead versus Michael Myers. Let's see more of these mashups. And I know we don't want to make anybody look bad, but I think Freddy versus Jason did a fantastic job that nobody looked bad.
Right.
And
I think that they'll tread lightly on all those type of matchups because it's different production companies coming through and pitting their villains against each other. But the fans just win, right? You get to see all the horror tropes that each of them have. So that's what I'd be excited about.
Yeah, the only other one I threw on there was Turbo Kid. If you've never seen that one, which I'm not sure if you ever did, Kirk, fantastic movie. And with that,
we're on to the next one.
We got the alarm going off. So hit us with the next.
All right, so this one's kind of fun. I think you came up with this one. So what is our favorite subcategory of horror?
So this one's a little easy and tough for me. So I have two right at the top here. My first one is slasher. I think slasher,
they're fun,
is probably my favorite subgenre. And think of everything we've discussed so far. Everything has been minus Evil Dead. Everything is slasher, right? It all goes back to Myers and Voorhees and Leatherface and Ghostface, Chucky. Pinhead, I guess, is a slasher. That's a little weird one, but
that was probably the original torture porn, actually.
Yeah.
80s torture porn. I mean, that wasn't a real genre yet. 80s torture porn. So I'm a Lovecraftian fan. If you're talking about just straight scaring me. And let me tell you Lovecraftian, what I throw in there, because I throw in all this religious horror into Lovecraft. I throw all the celestial horror. All that stuff is considered Lovecraftian to me. So The Exorcist, I know it's not technically Lovecraftian, but you're a normal person coming into something that is beyond our world, right? A demon. So
it's almost supernatural.
Supernatural.
I mean, I do understand the Lovecraftian, but supernatural is probably the more blanketed version.
That is the category that scares me the most. Now, my most fun, my most rewatchable slasher, I'm with you. 100%. But I'm talking about straight, like, scares me is going to be that type of horror.
I will also say, so anybody that has listened to this show more than a couple episodes knows I love the found footage genre. Like, found footage to me, and honestly, you could throw a dart and not ever hit a good found footage movie. But for me, even the bad ones, like, I don't know, there's something about it. I know they're very low budget, but you don't have high expectations going in, and it doesn't take a lot, to really have jump scares and make it a decent concept for me.
With found footage, don't get me wrong, it has its place. It's extremely inexpensive, so that's why there's a lot of garbage found footage, right? And that's why we kind of harass you. Now, found footage in general, when it's done right, it makes for good scares or sequences, right? And it's all about what you're not seeing and what your ears are telling you you're about to see. So found footage does that very well if it's done right. It's just, the problem is anybody's got a video recorder and race around some trees and call it found footage. So there's a lot of crap found footage.
Yeah, but I would argue that there's just as many crappy slashers. There's just as many crappy supernatural, like Last Rite type movies where you have like somebody possessed. I think just found footage is more often than not a B movie, and it's the shaky cam, so people don't take it seriously. Most found footage is filmed for,
but it has its strength. It has its strength. Its strength is what you're not seeing, or just out of your peripheral that you want. Like, you're like I find myself when I'm watching like Blair Witch, like leaning into the TV, or Paranormal Activity. Like, I start leaning over, like I want to see around that corner a little bit more, and found footage gives you that first person shooter type look. So I'm
but I like it though, because I feel like sometimes I am watching a VHS cassette tape, or I am watching something, so it almost feels a little bit
found footage horror.
It feels like it's a little bit more real to me. I still take slasher over found footage, because when I look at the history of movies that I watch, like, it is more of the slasher format. It's funny because Supernatural, which is kind of like Lovecraftian, even, that's one of my lower rated subjects. Now, I'm not a religious person. I'm not a, you know what I mean? And a lot of Supernatural sometimes deals with that. I like Evil Dead could be supernatural. It's demonic. It's whatever. I find that amazing, like, but if it's going to be supernatural, it's got to be like the gore and the scares got to like up the ante for me, where I don't have to have it in some of the other ones.
Lovecraftian horror, like the movie that we're supposed to be reviewing today, Prince of Darkness, that's a very Lovecraftian type movie. I like it, right? It leaves a lot to the imagination. So I dig that. I like found footage. I don't have a problem with found footage. I just think there's a lot of garbage out there that you have to sift through. But when it's done right, it keeps you on the edge of your toes. Like, it scares you. So Mike's showing me 5, 4, 3. We're counting down here. So
listen, I'm just letting you know we're coming up.
This is yours, so go right ahead.
I feel like you went in a different order than when I have these written down. So
I might have. My handwriting is pretty poor.
So we will see this. So, is there, Kirk, like a go-to actor that no matter what they put out, your butt will be either in a movie theater or, a straight to video, you're watching it. It comes on, you see them in it, you got to go to it.
Yeah, so I'll expand on that a little bit. It has to be horror, right? Because some of these actors kind of go into some garbage. So I wrote down 2 names. One I felt like is obvious, and one you'll probably feel that's a little bit more obvious when you start thinking about it. So the first one I put in here, I think is the icon of icon, is Bruce Campbell. Like,
it's my number one as well.
Yes.
But you want to know what? I don't mean to cut you off because it's you're leading it. But what makes me go in on Bruce Campbell is he doesn't do like 50 movies.
Nope.
Like, he's very strategic in what he does, so it makes it more valuable when he's in something.
And he's always physical comedy. That's what he does. You throw that into a horror movie, that physical comedy with the stakes at which coming at him, you get your Evil Dead 1, you get your Evil Dead 2, you get your Army of Darkness. great, 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 right? All these great movies. So Bruce Campbell's my number one. I wanted to kind of get away from Bruce Campbell and find someone that is imposing on the screen. I put Keith David.
First off, there's nothing wrong with Keith. Like, when you look at his body of work, it's pretty impressive.
The dude could do just voiceovers, and I'm probably there. Like, he's got one of the best delivery voices that's just intimidating, deep. Have you ever seen Requiem for a Dream? It's not horror, but he's in that. Oh, his scene, that voice, just gives me a shiver. So Keith David is somebody I just love to see him and everything he's done.
A lot of people say Requiem for a Dream is a horror movie because it's horrifying and it's so hard to watch.
It's a very hard watch. It's a very good. We're not here to talk about Requiem for a Dream. I love Requiem for a Dream, but yeah. So I put Keith David. I put Bruce Campbell. Bruce was the obvious choice. I tried to get a little bit more of a curveball that I really like Keith David. Everything I see him in, he's great. He was in The Thing, one of my favorite all-time horror movies. He had a big part in that. He was great. So what other names did you have on your list?
So this was actually really tough for me because when I think of like horror related actors, there's not many that I'm like banging down the door to go see. It's more of the movie itself, right? Like, I want to see Michael Myers or whatever. But
that's what made this category hard.
Yeah, like, I mean, I wrote down a couple. Like, first off, I won't say that in fact, I have not seen. I have 4 names on here. I have not seen all of their movies. Wow. But if I see them in a movie, like let's say I'm browsing through the channels late night and there's a movie and I haven't heard of it, if I see one of these 4 names in there, I'm giving it a shot. So Kane Hodder's one of them, where once again, he's made 150 probably really shitty horror movies, but I've watched a good amount of them just because Kane Hodder's in it. I want to see kind of what's up. Bill Moseley is another one that I love. Bill Moseley. He's made way more bad movies than he's made good ones, but once again, he'll get a watch from me. And then on the female side of it, we talk about these 2 all the time, but Scout Taylor Compton and Danielle Harris, I love them. And then I'll also add now Jenna Ortega and Samara Weaving. I love both of them. Samara Weaving probably more, and she's doing a lot more horror movies. Those are just some of the scream queens that if I just see them in a movie, I'm more prone to stop on.
Let me throw a name out there that no one's probably thinking of, and has 2 horror movies, about to get the 3rd one. Bill Skarsgård.
So I like Bill Skarsgård.
It 1 and 2. He was not the problem in 2, and he was fantastic in 1.
No, and in Barbarian, he's great in Barbarian.
He's about to be the new Crow.
Right. He's at the beginning. I'm still not.
He's very early. I'm saying
if I see his name in a movie, though, I'm thinking it's the same thing like Mia Goth right now. Like, she's becoming that new scream queen where I'm taking it more seriously when I see their name in the movie.
Give it a few more
there's
movies,
a budget.
Mia could be definitely easily top 5. Like the movies haven't been great. She is crazy talented.
I agree. And that's why I had to start looking at this of like, what will I give a chance if I see the name in there? And we don't have enough time for it, but I started writing down, because this will be maybe for next time, directors that when they come out with the movie, who is it that I'm looking to see? Because that's almost kind of like where we are now in things where
that landscape is changing so fast because usually they don't stick in horror for too long.
No, but we do
even
have
John Carpenter
now.
trying to get out of horror, but got brought back in.
Yes, and with that,
so I know I found out where I made my mistake on the last one I read, and I definitely misread my handwriting.
So it wasn't. I did have it written down.
You had it right. I just kind of glanced down, went with it, and I was wrong. So
what number are we on now?
We are on.
We're doing 8 today.
Yes, we're on number 6.
6.
But I'm reading number 4 because I misread number 4.
I was thrown for a loop, and I'm like, fuck. This is
good news is they were both mine to read. So
this is fair.
All right. So of our scoring system, so we all know our scoring system. We'll repeat them here in a second. If you need a repeat, I'll let Mike do that because he's got them off the tip of his tongue. But on our scoring system, what is your most important one?
So I think we definitely have to name what are they
sure.
are ahead of time. So we have kills / gore. That's one. We have effects. We have scare / creep factor, story, acting, and then we are keeping the bonus category in here because
It holds the same weight.
It holds the exact same weight. Actually, it might hold a little bit more because you could subtract or add from
Right.
it. But for me, this is pretty easy, and it's because it's a horror related movie. It's kill / gore for me. This is the category. Like, so let me just go through this a little bit.
I thought me and you would be on the same page, and we're not.
So that tells me yours is price. Well, is your scare or is it FX? I don't know.
Do I? I thought you were going to explain yourself.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. What is yours?
So my number one is effects.
Okay.
So I'm an 80s guy, so that's where my heart is. I love all horror, but my heart is in the 80s. Those 80s practical effects, what they can do. Dark Knight, Evil Dead Rises, the CGI in it sometimes just pulled me out a little bit, and it didn't for you, which is great. But it just like effects is so important in a horror movie to me, and they don't have to be great; they just have to like keep me in the movie.
What I will say is this: it depends on the type of movie.
Yeah.
That depends on which one of these is most important. So, like, for example, because that's what I was thinking when I was going through it. Like, take a trauma movie, right? Like, if I'm watching Toxic Avenger or any of these trauma films, acting is going to be atrocious intentionally. So, the horror genre in general, even though I crucify it every week in here on story, you can be loose in the story in a horror movie.
Yep.
Where if this was a drama or, you know, something that's like a history film or something, you can't just leave out things.
Like The Thing has a great story. The Shining, very basic story. The Exorcist, very basic story. It's all about, you know what I mean? The story is something that you can.
But now imagine The Shining if the acting was bad.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, it's so important. Now imagine Friday 13th part whatever if acting's bad. Who cares? You know what I mean? You're there
Par
for
the
something
course.
different.
So
right?
my number two, what I almost went with number one, was bonus. Because I feel
like so you're saying what's that extra? What's the extra the it factor that it gives?
What's that one scene? What's that music? What's that it factor? What's Halloween Kills, the story is dog shit. The acting is not very good, but there are some scenes with Michael that I can't categorize anywhere else. And I'm like, yep, that's it. That's it. And that's a +1.
So I want to go back to my top one, kill / gore. I go back to this because no matter what the movie is, if it's gory or if the kills are unique or it's like cool and there's a bunch of them, it automatically screams horror movie to me. It's automatically yelling it out there to the top of like this. The movie could suck, but at least because if you have enough kills in there, like even if the movie sucks, every 10 minutes you're getting something that you like. Where the other categories, like I'm not that taken out. If the effects are that bad, like if you look and say what is the absolute, if it's dog shit in that category, it could affect the movie. Effects is probably up there because if it's not probably up there, it is. It's like, you know, it's more than kills, it's more than gore. Because if everything is hilarious or so bad, it takes you out of the movie instantly, kind of as you were alluding to.
I mean, kills are definitely important, but there's good horror movies with very little death. So that's why it didn't end up number one for me. But if you're into that fun, campy body count type movie, kills is definitely high. It's definitely high. So I see your point. Effects though. So I just watched a documentary on Ray Harryhausen. So like the effects are how they delivered some of these things in the 80s and 90s, and even now how they kind of mesh CGI with practical. And I think they should do a little bit better job of meshing these two. Or they need to pay CGI people a lot more money or give them a lot more time, which they will never do. But that's on to a different topic. But that being said, like effects are just so important. And that's the fastest thing that pulls me out of a movie when the effect is done poorly.
I can agree with that. I will say my number 2 is the one that we haven't talked about yet, which is scare/creep factor. Now, except for the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's very hard for me to be scared in a movie. But when a movie's overly creepy or it just gives you that off-putting vibe, which, by the way, Evil Dead Rise did give me with the voices and whatever, just off-putting.
They leaned into it, definitely.
I didn't look away from the screen. I'm not that person. But, of course, the alarm goes off.
Right in the middle of a great point. But
it was a great point.
Go ahead.
But on to the next one, because we have rules, all right? And, yes. So... let's talk about Blumhouse for a second. They've been announcing a couple different sequels here. So they're talking about Black Phone 2 potentially coming out. We've already been told that Megan 2.0 is coming out. You coined this term I think a little while ago to me, but sequelitis. How do you feel about, Blumhouse kind of going in on almost every movie that they release in multiple sequels?
So I love horror in general. So anytime you can bring more money into the horror genre, I'm in favor of it. And sequels usually do make more money, especially off good movies, than the original, right? It's just the nature of the beast. So a Black Phone 2 is going to outperform Black Phone 1. A Megan 2, even though Megan made a lot of money, I guarantee outperforms Megan 1. That being said, I am a fresh idea type person. I love new, fresh ideas. But then I'm also the same person that complains that Halloween Ends wasn't about Michael Myers. You know what I mean? So I'm a rolling contradiction on this.
You're a hypocrite. You're just a hypocrite.
I'm a big hypocrite. I want things the way I want it, and I don't ever get it that way. That being said, the two movies we kind of talked about, Black Phone 2, I don't know are we getting a prequel to this? Did he really not? Spoiler, die at the what are they? The kids were great.
There's supernatural stuff in there. I mean, they could go in 17 different.
But you need Ethan Hawke, right? That movie has to have Ethan Hawke.
He was very creepy. Going back to our last.
He's the draw. He's your. People trust Ethan Hawke right now in horror. Going back a couple topics, he's working his way up into that list of people you'd go see horror movies.
Yeah. I mean, you got The Purge, which, by the way, so if we talk about Blumhouse, they're responsible. So we have the Halloween trilogy. They have the Paranormal Activities. They had Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to You, talking about just movies they did multiple of.
Yep.
The Insidious, where there's been a bunch of them. The Purges, which is Ethan Hawke, right?
Yep.
So Blumhouse is known for doubling and tripling down. Here's my only problem. First off, I love Blumhouse. I love Jason Blum.
A24 and Blumhouse. I salute both of them. Keep doing what you're doing.
Two completely different
elevated horror and making money horror.
Here's what I will say about Blumhouse. They are a cash cow. Is I just wish Blumhouse was a rated R Blumhouse. That's my only problem. If you look at all of their key movies, they're all for the most part PG-13.
There's one reason.
Because you get more people in the theater, and I understand why they do it. I just believe every Blumhouse, Jason Blum, I know you're a huge fan of this podcast. Probably listening right now. Here's my thing to you. Is make two versions then of make the R-rated movie and then put out the PG-13 and put out a bonus. You'll make more money by putting out the bonus rated R.
Dude, I was going to cut you off, but you made the exact point I was going to make. Put it in the theaters PG-13, but then release a streaming director's cut, Blumhouse
which
cut.
they did with Megan. They did with Megan on Peacock.
But what I mean is tune it up a bit. Let's see a legit heavy R.
Yeah, make
capital
it an R.
Capital R this movie, and make it a reason that we're watching it probably twice now. And it would work. It would get me, right? It would get all the big time horror people. We'd watch it twice.
And you even got Blumhouse right now, so they announced this week, so they're doing the new Exorcist. Jason Blum was the one that teased the idea of Halloween 3 in the past, although he said, they're not going to do that now. I don't mind him resurfacing the old ideas and reimagining. They've proven that they can. I just, like I said, I don't mind the sequel. I want to see it. I'm all for the more horror that comes to the theater or on Paramount or on Peacock or Netflix or whatever, and people like it, the more they're going to make. Yep. And the more we're going to have to discuss. So, I mean, I'm all for it.
Here's the thing, all the sequels, all the just I don't get sequels to it, whatever it may be. They know they already have us. We're going to go see the movie. We're going to complain about it or praise it or whatever we're going to do. So what they're doing with all these sequels is they're putting new people into the seats. They're bringing in a whole new generation and saying, hey, The Last Exorcist was it the early 90s that the third one came out, or The Heretic or whatever came out? Like, hey, let's introduce you to the next one. You know what I mean? Like, with these new movies, we're introducing new characters and we're continuing that path.
Well, but think of music. All right, how people sample
everything,
older music all the time, create a new song, it's another hit. So why should horror be any different? And with that, we got alarm
There's
going
the
off.
alarm
here.
going off. All right, so this is the last category. This one I think is going to be a little bit more fun, but a little structurally different. So what we're doing here is I've got 5 movies written down. We are going to quickly decide if they're horror movies or they're just thrillers or don't fall in line with what we think is horror. So we're gonna
now. I also want to preface. I have no idea what your 5 movies that you have come up with are.
Yes. Mike doesn't know. I've kind of formed. I know. So I've written these movies down as movies I wanted to look into, but I haven't formed the full thought process to it. So I'm only a step or two ahead of you with these movies. But what we're going to do, I'm going to read the movie off, maybe give you a quick 10-second depressurization, and then we're going to put 2 minutes on the clock. And
so wait. I don't know. Where this is the only one that I don't know. When do I start the 2 minutes? When you read off the movie? That's when the 2 minutes begins, right?
When the 2 minutes will begin, I'll read the movie name off.
And then 2 minutes begins right there. That's what I think is fair.
Your first word coming out of your mouth, click
it will
start.
be 2. Gotcha.
Because or we'll go back and forth. You'll get the first one, I'll get the second one, third, fourth.
Yeah. Yep.
So whenever, okay. First movie. And this one's relevant. Beetlejuice.
Okay. So, I think Beetlejuice is a horror movie. I think this is actually an easier one. When you look at this movie, it's about a couple who fucking drives off the side of like a bridge and die in their house.
There's dead people, there's demons, there's
monsters, they're haunting, it's supernatural.
These are all the pros.
You got the large worm thing. Even like I'll tell you, kind of creeped me out as a youngin', if you will, that shrunken head person. Like, that was creepy. And I show that to a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old. I guarantee they're gonna have some nightmares off of the original Beetlejuice. What do you think?
So I wrestle back and forth with this one, and this kind of falls in line to Jason's thinking and the ongoing debate about Ghostbusters. This movie is very similar to Ghostbusters. It has all those things, but what's its primary goal? It's to make you laugh. It's not necessarily to scare you. I guess people die.
It takes you behind the scenes.
Yeah,
it takes you behind the scenes of a scaring.
Like, people die in it. I guess our 2 main characters die in it, but there's not a body count. There's not a force out there killing people. There's not a Beetlejuice turns on them at the end and makes that the final third, the action filled. But
here's where I think it differs a little bit. That the antagonists are some of the people that are alive, and the protagonists are supposed to be like the dead evil. You know what I mean? They're not. Beetlejuice is like a fun character. The Gina Davis.
Then who's
and
the bad guy and who's
are
the good guy? Who would you antagonist? Because the alive people are just trying to get ghosts out of their house.
But they're also kind of jerks about it. So
they're
like
assholes,
they're antagonists.
So it's a tougher one if you go too deep into it. But real quick, I would say give me thumbs up or thumbs down. But yes or no, is this horror?
It's horror.
All right. I agree with you. I throw it right in line with Ghostbusters.
All right. And that is 2 minutes on the nose, which is good. So
all right,
now,
so do you feel nice and
number 2?
You feel warmed up?
I mean, I feel like you threw like the softball out there for me. So, but I like that you're going to go first on the next one.
Yeah, so this one's a little bit more interesting, and I wanted to deep dive into this movie a little bit more. I wanted to rewatch this movie, but it's going to be Donnie Darko.
Okay.
All right, so Donnie Darko, there is death in this movie. There is time travel in this movie. There's a feeling of horror through the entire movie until you figure out the end. And then there isn't this big conspiracy or this thing after you or this monster or this person in a bunny suit trying to get you. All it was time travel. It's more sci-fi. So I'm going to say probably not. What do you think?
So I don't think Donnie Darko is horror.
But the elements, you can feel the elements.
Yeah, I would say the feeling, it makes you feel kind of like numb as you're watching, because that's kind of like the point, right? Like Jake Gyllenhaal is kind of like
so good in that movie.
Numb to the world. Jenna Malone's fantastic. You got Patrick Swayze, right? Like there's a lot of good acting. But for me, this is more drama than anything. And I think this is a drama movie. I to be honest with you, I haven't seen Donnie Darko in a while now. And did you know, by the way, there's a Donnie Darko Part 2 that centers on his sister. I haven't watched it.
I think I started to watch it, but I thought it was dog shit, so I turned it off.
I'm sure it's dog shit. I'm sure it's dog shit. But I don't think there's a lot of death in this movie.
The boyfriend gets shot in the face, and then Donnie gets smashed with the at the very end, the jet engine hits him.
Well, yeah. I mean, the jet engine comes in at the beginning, and then you find out at the end.
All right, so if you pause this movie 2/3 of the way in, I feel like it's all horror. Like, I feel like it's setting me up for that confrontation between something and whatever's going on. Like, I don't know yet.
I don't know, because I don't think the payoff then equals, like, and I think if you looked at it as a horror movie, I don't think you'd like Donnie Darko the movie, because the payoff would not equal out the rest of the movie. And I think you enjoyed the movie, right? I enjoyed the movie.
Donnie Darko is a fantastic freaking movie.
So I think if you find it that way, I think it's hard to then argue that it's a horror movie.
But the debate is happening. So 2-1-0, I would say no, though I think it's a great movie with horror elements.
100%. I think everything we're about to talk about has horror elements, but I don't think it's a horror movie.
All right, so this one's a little harder.
Oh boy.
But very, very good movie. All these are very good movies. So this next one, the third one, is American Psycho.
Okay. I think American Psycho is a horror movie. Now, this is another one that I haven't watched in a very long time, but Christian Bale, obviously.
Great.
And this one also has, one or two sequels. Mila Kunis was in part 2. But,
dog shit.
It has got Mila Kunis. It doesn't have to be that good.
Touche.
I mean, he's luring people back to his house. He's a fucking psycho. He's got the axe. He's like, I mean, they show there's a lot of blood in this movie. This could be a slasher, if you ask me.
But the ending, it never happened.
I agree, but the whole movie, just because you change it at the end and
it's
make
the same
it,
thing for Donnie Darko.
Yes, but Donnie Darko, to me, it doesn't have to me, it's not a lot of horror related. It's more drama related, but it's ominous, like with Donnie Darko.
Like there's something looming.
Yeah, it's something like you feel uneasy.
Yes, this feels horror bashing you against the face, and then at the end it throws you a curveball.
But here's like if you watched Halloween Part 1, and at the end Laurie Strode just woke up, and would you say that Halloween is not a horror movie? No, you would be like, all right, that's a fucking fantastic horror movie. Now we could debate the end if you would like it or not, but you would feel that way. So American Psycho, if you make a fucking horror movie for 9/10 of a movie, and then in the last 10th you change it up, it's still 9/10 a horror movie.
But if we were scoring this on our scoring system and we got the body count, how do you score that? Because technically there's 0 dead bodies.
First off, if you kill somebody on screen, even if they come back to life or if it was just a dream, I think it's a death. If you see the full death, it's somebody died. Like that's me though.
I can see your point. So I have a love for this movie too much. I will agree with you that it's horror. I just wanted to be the devil's advocate, and I see there's a debate to be had there.
I don't feel like you're just agreeing with me. I think you just believe it's a horror movie.
I do believe it's a horror movie. It's a horror movie 99%. It just throws you a curveball at the end to make you think.
So I'll point this out. We are lock in step on this. I would really like to see you and Jason do this, because I think that would be completely
Jason, anyone else, because he doesn't have a process to his thinking.
There's elements in the movie.
He likes that word. I don't know if he knows what it means. All right.
He likes it when it means it's horror. But yes, all right. So what's number 4? All right,
number 4. Who? So I have to start on this one. Okay.
Yes, I like it.
Okay. The movie 7.
Oh. Ooh. Kirk, you did a great job with these ones.
Gee, 7, right? So death count's there, gore's there, but it's scary. It's a scary movie. Like that being said, it's very natural. There's not anything that's unnatural about. Oh, I guess the guy shaving his. I don't know. What do you think? I'm just rambling words right now. It's hard to put my thought process together.
I almost called you Jason for a second. So here's what I would say. Once again, I'm not burying the lead in any of these. 7 to me will end up on the wheel at some point in time. It is a horror movie to me, and I think this would rank really high in our rating system. Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, like look at the characters in this, the acting in this, the ominous, the effects, the story is very good, and you do like the death scenes and the aftermath and the effects of things, like the gluttonous dude that overeats himself to death. Good. Or what about the scene where the guy has to like basically rape the girl with a knife? I mean, on his genital. Like these are like very heavy, and then the ending is like
what's in the box?
What's in the box? I to me this is almost one of the easiest ones on here.
Really?
This to me is it has every element, it makes you feel every emotion, and just because it fits into other categories doesn't mean that it doesn't fit into horror.
So 7 is always fit in one of my top all-time movies ever. Like if I thought top 20 movies, it'd be somewhere in there. I've actually got the list somewhere, but not on me right now. That being said, I've never thought about it as putting it on my top horror movie. Like if you list the horror movie, I'd be like The Thing, Halloween 1, I'd go through this list and I would never think the 7. But then if you do a deep dive into it, right, this has got horror elements layered throughout, and it's scary and it's creepy, and it's set a lot of the tropes that are used today even. Are we getting the alarm? All right. So yes or no?
Oh, 100%, yes.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm 100%. I'm at like 95%, but we are still lockstep.
I think 95 is a pretty...
Yeah.
That's still like an A...
But the only reason I'd lose that 5% is because I never thought about it before. And when I started thinking about it, I was like, oh, I gotta write this one down for this debate. So, all right.
That's fair. Last
one. I hope you've seen this one. I'm pretty sure you have. But this one, it's you first. Okay. Shutter Island.
So what I will say is Shutter Island, Leonardo DiCaprio, right?
Correct.
I haven't seen Shutter Island in a long, long time. If I remember correctly, I would say this is a horror movie. Yeah.
It's so another movie. 2/3 to 3/4 of the movie, 100%. You're looking for this killer. Is it this woman? Is it this other guy? Is this a guy who attacked him at that other part of the ward? Who is it? What happened to his kids? What happened to his wife? It's just layering that in. And then the last third, you get the whole. It was him all along, right? He has to get lobotomized.
But doesn't that even magnify the horror related that right? Like there's a craziness
going through the
in
horror.
there. Right, like that magnifies it for me versus if other than that, it still to me would be horror the other way. It's just more stereotypical. But when you add in this element, it adds more psychological horror to it that just makes it even more of a horror movie to me.
Yeah, and it's kind of a weird comparison, but I kind of make it as a poor man's 7, right? Obviously, it's not the same detective, but it's a detective trying to find this killer in this confined space. It's got these scary elements, this really and it turns out it was all him all along, right? Is it the same thing as American Psycho? So American Psycho in 7 had a baby, and it's called Shutter Island.
You had a theme here.
I didn't mean to do that.
I will say, I love this. We're going to have to do this Is It Horror way more. We're just going to have to build in these part in the horror more. But no, for me, I think Shutter Island is a horror movie. I think it's as much a horror movie as any of the other ones that we just discussed.
Yeah. 2-1. So we're done with this one. I'm going to say this one's not a horror movie.
At least we disagree on something.
And I'm not far from you. Like, if we had another minute or two, you could have probably pulled me over. But I feel like this is missing something that American Psycho had it, right? So it's the same kind of movie setup as American Psycho. At the last second, you find out it was.
Yeah, but I think American Psycho is way more violent than Shutter Island.
That's
Shutter Island's more of a slow burn,
cerebral,
cerebral. But I do see where the cop drama comes in. Like in Seven, we'll just call this After Hours here with our discussion here. But with Seven,
such a good debate.
With Seven, even though it's a cop story, it's not. It's more focused on the serial killer, where I think Shutter Island is more focused on the cop, and it's built around Leonardo DiCaprio.
So that would just pull me to the no just a little bit. So I'm gonna. We agreed on 4. The 5th one's right there, though. So, and I've got a list already started of movies that we can kind of dig into this. I'm going to continue to dig in,
and we can ask out there, guys, if you have Is It Horror?
For sure.
You can email us, go on to Facebook, go on Instagram, all the good ones. Drop us a line, and we can maybe discuss it on our next Is It Horror site. We could do probably 10 episodes just on this subject.
I've got probably 10 episodes saved on my phone already.
That is fun. And as we were going through this, I was going, oh, but this person was in this movie. What do you think of this? And I got a bunch of different ones that I could add. Obviously, we talked about Ghostbusters and some other ones. We have some good ones out there that they're head scratchers because you don't think of them as a horror movie, but they are, or you don't think of them as something else, but really they're not. So
Yep. And you got it. So Jason infamously says elements all the time. So what does that mean, right? So I think it's something you just kind of know, right? It's deep down in your heart. But for me, elements are something terrifying you mentally or physically. Those are the elements to me. So if going to a different movie, we can continue to debate this movie, but Ghostbusters, right? There's something terrorizing you there. So that would be, I get it. Bill Murray's funny as hell. That's what he does. And horror comedy goes so well together because it's like, it's like sweet and salty, right? It's so opposite that it works.
Well, tragedy and comedy are they're one and the same in essence.
Yes.
I would say, like, I mean, and we'll get into Ghostbusters another time, but the problem is people grow up being allowed to watch something, or like you look at someone like the Adam Sandler's has a couple, Hubie Halloween and stuff like that, but in essence they are horror movies. They're just made for a younger audience. Hocus Pocus, you might say
both are horror movies, like
right, like they're just
Halloween
made for a younger
Halloween
audience.
Comedies. That's what they are.
Hey, here's what I would say to that. If you go to an amusement park, right, there's the roller coaster that has 10 loops and goes, like 70 miles sky high, but there's also that entry, the entry level kiddie coasters, and the kiddie coasters, their main job is to build up the kids. So that they also feel like they're doing the things the adults can do. And to me, it's the same thing. It's horror light.
So
you and I wouldn't look at it as like
Ghostbusters a kiddie coaster.
Throwing it on there. Yeah. Well, that's a discussion for another day.
Hubie Halloween is a kiddie coaster.
Yeah, but once again, there's not just A and Z, right? There's a B, a C, a D, a E, all through the alphabet.
So I think the Is It Horror debate could go on for days.
Yes, it could. But that's this episode, Kirk. I mean, very easy. Still, some good content out there. I know Kirk would love it. I would love it, Jason. Like, feedback on do you like the quick roundabout subjects?
Let us know if you want to hear more of this style and just not movie reviews. So give us a little change up of things to do.
Yeah. So we'll this is what we'll call this Pardon the Tear. And
I like
we'll
it.
kind of. So Pardon the Tear, and from there we will we'll see. Will there be more episodes of Pardon the Tear coming, or is it just a one day one off? Who knows?
I enjoyed it, so I know I want to do it.
I did too. I wonder if we have to put more. No, we got to keep it to 5 minutes. I was gonna say
you have to. Yeah,
you start adding things on there, you have like a 5-hour episode.
Then you get all your points across, and it kind of muddies the water.
It does. It does. So for those that tuned in this week, we should have said this at the beginning, for Prince of Darkness. Oh, you did. But Prince of Darkness will be reviewed next week. So that way, I mean, realistically, Kirk and I just wanted to hear Jason do the synopsis, and we would lose out on that.
That dude's getting back of the box on this movie. This is a very hard movie to discuss. Or to
I don't even think you have to say that. That's just.
Hey, Jason, if you're listening, just memorize IMDb back of the box. Let's just skip that segment. Do your thing.
But we will be back with the normal scheduled interlude show. We're going to call this one 117.5. So next week will be 118. But as always, we appreciate you guys for listening and joining in. You can reach us on a multitude of ways. So we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram, and we are on Twitter, all at MVJ Horror. We have an email address at MVJ at Yahoo, but you can email us directly from the Instagram or the Facebook pages.
You can find us anywhere.
Yes, but we also have a full-blown YouTube channel that has literally hundreds of shorts and movies and some of our old podcasts and maybe some cool snippets from new there. I mean, there's a lot of stuff on there, and you could also message us from there, I believe, too, right, Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. And I've just uploaded a whole bunch of public domain movies. So if there's some old classic horror movies that you haven't seen or haven't caught, and you're tired of people talking about it or whatever. They're pretty old, so it's public domain, but there's probably about 20 public domain movies already loaded up in our YouTube channel.
Do you like black and white?
There are some black and white, but like there's a couple movies from the 70s. So they didn't renew their copyright, but like Night of the Living Dead is on there. Phantom of the Opera. There's probably 6 or 7 silent movies. So those are usually the public domain. Because if it doesn't make money by selling tickets or DVDs, they just don't renew their copyright.
If it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense. Boom.
I think we should end on that.
We should. All right. So we appreciate everybody from joining us, signing off from MVJ Horror.